We're going to stay down on the farm right now. We're joined by Bill Adams, who is a legendary gardener from Houston, who's joining us right now. Bill has just produced a beautiful book, The Texas Tomato Lover's Handbook. And I don't know a person who doesn't love tomatoes, so it's great to have you on the show.
There's a few around, but
unheard of.
You know, some people just don't like fresh tomatoes. And I've had some fresh tomatoes I didn't like either, but you know, they like the tomato sauces, pizza, whatever. You know, tomatoes are everywhere.
They are everywhere, and they're probably the #1 plant that people love to garden with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's everybody's prized possession in the spring is a good crop from their backyard, and we're going to tell people how to get to it and the appropriate ways. Let's start by talking about sites for tomato patches. Obviously, full sun.
Full sun is best. I have grown them with, you know, 6 or 8 hours of sun. And in midsummer, if you could get a little shade, you'd probably like to have it midday.
Right.
But growing them under heavy shade is a waste of time.
That's absolutely right. Now, let's talk about your planting techniques in terms of the spacing of plants in the garden and how deep you plant them when you plant them up.
Well, you know, I really like to plant mine maybe a little extreme because I'm trying to get around them and take pictures of them and stuff like that. So I'd rather have them 4 feet apart than 3 feet. But you know, a lot of people plant them 3 feet apart. When I plant the plants, I want to make sure that I put a little collar around them so that the cutworms don't get them.
Okay.
And you can go with a lanky plant. I don't mind if you get one kind of stretched out as long as it's healthy.
Right.
I mean, there's no bargain in an unhealthy plant. If it looks yellow or mosaic-like, it's probably got a virus. Don't take it home for nothing. You know, it wouldn't be good. But you can lay that stem down, kind of break off the lower leaves if it's long, and then carefully start it up, put a little bamboo stake there by it, and, you know, the little collars. The cutworms will get right at the soil line.
Right.
And
so what do you use for your collars? I'm curious.
I've used cardboard.
Yeah.
I've used aluminum foil, kind of whatever I grab out of the kitchen at the time. You know, it's sort of a last thought thing. You know, ooh,
it doesn't have to be pretty as long as it just keeps the critters from crawling up to the stem, right? So let's talk a little bit about the soil preparation that you do in advance of the planting.
I use almost pure compost. So the dump truck dumps the mushroom compost. I get the little Kubota out and go put a bunch of it out there. My soil underneath is a heavy clay.
Right, Houston, right?
and clay is, you know, it's got some good points. It holds water, it holds nutrients. The little gophers don't seem to like it as much.
No, that's true.
But that's more or less my subsoil, and I've just used compost repeatedly year after year, just rebuild it. If it's a row for beans or something, I'll build it up into mounds. If it's a cage, then I kind of, you know, hill up fresh compost there, and
right.
And I'm off to a good start again.
Now, what are your favorite fertilizers to use? You know, a lot of people they hear about organic gardening and think all they should use is compost, but there's a lot of other things that can be really helpful.
Compost may not have enough of the nutrients that you need, and I'm not a pure organic gardener. I'm fanatic about organic matter, like the mushroom compost, and I'll use some of the organic fertilizers, usually a chicken manure-based fertilizer, kind of made into a granular product that's a little easier to work with. You wouldn't want to use it the night before a garden party, probably. But you're not going to burn anything with it. And then if I get into a situation, and I've had people say, "What's wrong with my tomato plants? They're kind of yellow and they're not growing." They may have mixed too much high carbon material like wood chips or shavings or something with the soil, and microorganisms tie up nitrogen. So you may have to use a little soluble fertilizer to get them going.
Okay.
Hose-on sprayer type.
Sure, you can do it that way. Cottonseed meal and other forms of nitrogen.
Cottonseed meal. There's lots of. If you want to use fish emulsion, the cats will love you, and and the tomato plants will too.
Now, planting real early in the season, you always have to cross your fingers a little bit about cold. What do you do for protecting your starts?
Well, there's fiber row cover is a material that we use a lot to get plants started, but the real thin stuff doesn't have much frost protection, maybe a couple of degrees. So there's a little thicker product. It's a spun polypropylene, and I may wrap the tomato cages with that. I make good sturdy cages because in in Texas, most of the ones you buy at the garden center will blow over eventually.
Right.
But that thicker frost blanket type material will get you through. And if you don't have that, an old blanket is better than a single layer of clear plastic.
Sure.
You could put the clear plastic on the outside to break the wind, force the wind, but it can be colder under a single layer of plastic than not having it.
Well, that's interesting.
So you need a good insulator.
Okay, absolutely. Insulation's
Old
good. A couple
blanket,
of
tarp,
layers,
whatever you got.
just like they tell you to do. Put on layers. It's the same
get
thing.
them through a night or two, and you're
Right.
home free, and you got the earliest tomatoes on the block.
People hear about determinate and indeterminate varieties. What should people know about that before they go out and buy a plant?
Well, determinate varieties essentially are the ones that kind of grow up 36 inches maybe or even less and stop. They're real stocky, usually have thick stems and so on. And they may not take as heavy duty a cage as the indeterminate ones because some of those will grow up to the eave of your house, if they get a chance.
Hence indeterminate. You don't know how big they're going to get.
That's right. They get really large. So you just kind of have to balance it. It's got to be a good variety too.
Yeah.
And I look for nematode resistance, the little microscopic worms that attack the root system.
Right.
And
that's indicated typically on every label, right? What do people look for that?
It'll have an N behind the name, usually.
Right.
And I'm surprised that a lot of new varieties don't come out with that. I think they're so intent on trying to breed virus resistance in, they can only get so much in there and still have an edible tomato.
Right.
At the end.
Well, let's talk about varieties. That's what everybody likes to think about with tomatoes. And with the onset of heirlooms, everybody gets kind of crazy about different varieties. But let's talk about just early producers first. What are your favorites?
Early Girl is an old standard that's
it's a
still
good one.
good. There's Black Krim, Mosfetch are a couple of the early ones that come off pretty early. Getting them out early is about as important as anything, I guess. And you can kind of assume that when it gets really hot and you start getting all those cracks around the top of the tomato that even if you pick them when they first get color, and tomatoes do color from the inside out,
Right.
with those cracks, when you bring them in, they may not ripen before they go bad.
Yeah, so be aware of that.
I still like it for a basic tomato, Champion, if you can find it, and it's a hybrid. I don't know, Champion 2 seems to be the one that's out there now. Maybe Champion's gone its way.
Okay.
There's a Bush Champion, Celebrity. Celebrity's a little firm texture-wise, but it still has good flavor.
Yeah, and produces well.
You get into a fight saying bad things about celebrities. So don't try to do that.
How about the cherry tomatoes? Any varieties there that you like to recommend?
Yes, there's a little yellow one called Sun Gold.
Sun Gold.
Sun Gold
Okay.
is maybe, in my opinion, the best tasting tomato in the world. If I could get a Sun Gold this size, I'd stop trying to grow the big ones.
Okay.
But the Sun Golds are little yellow cherries.
A lot of those little ones are packed with flavor,
Yeah, Sweet Chelsea is a good one, and Sweet Chelsea also has nematode resistance.
Okay.
The little worms that attack the root system.
Right.
Sweet 100, Sweet Million, those are very tasty.
Yeah.
Not all cherries are absolutely scrumptious, but a lot of them are. There's one called Texas Wild. It's about the size of the end of your little finger. You know? And it's like tomato candy. But, but it could also be your new weed, because you'll never get them all picked.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, main season hybrids, there are 1,000. Let's just pick 2 or 3 of your favorites there.
Well, one that I see coming back, we used to have a couple of varieties from France that were really good. One was called Donna, D-O-N-A, and I don't think it's available as a hybrid, but Carmelo is out there again, and Carmelo hybrid is a big, beautiful tomato. Better Boy is still good.
Yeah, that's a classic. On the heirlooms, you have to give me a couple of your favorites there.
Cherokee Purple. I mean, I can dig into a Cherokee Purple, and when I finish a plate of them, I'll lick the juice off the bottom of the plate. They're that good. They're sweet.
You tell people to steer away from Brandywine.
Brandywine has not done well for me, and I know there's different strains of it, so maybe somebody's could rebut that a little bit. But I think in a climate where they have longer days and cooler nights, like the Midwest or the Northeast, it may be a champion for them. But you get down here, you really need a good tasting hot weather tomato that will survive.
All right. So the one other heirloom you recommend is Mariana's Peace.
Mariana's Peace is one that I've tried the last few years, and It's a great big tomato, kind of pinkish colored, big enough to lap over a burger. Persimmon is a
making me
big yellow
hungry
one. Yeah.
All right.
I'm ready for the salsa again.
So I think there are a lot of people who are ready for the salsa, Bill. We really appreciate you stopping by.
Sure.
The book, again, is the Texas Tomato Lover's Handbook. It's a beautiful, handsome book from Texas A&M University Press. It's great to have you on Central Texas Gardener. I hope you come back.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, coming up next is our friend Daphne.